Alright everyone, this is Zero Budget Geek and welcome to sort of the prequel to the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game Wrath of the Righteous set. So I'm going to be playing this, the first adventure of this in a series on my YouTube channel, but I want to include you guys, the viewers, in the setup of this. So in the past ones that I've done, basically I was the one that selected which characters I was going to use, and I mainly played as two characters in each one, and that was a little bit restrictive and it doesn't give you a chance to look at some of the other characters and whatnot. So what I thought I'd do for this series is I'm gonna have you guys go ahead and pick out which of the heroes you want me to play as, and I think we're going to do something a little bit different. I think we're going to go with 3 heroes. We have 4 here. I was going to say there's 3 on here, but there's a little guy there. But we're going to pick 3 heroes that are going to be our group, and we're going to use that group through all the scenarios, and I believe there's going to be 5 scenarios, so 5 episodes in this, and we're going to continue using those same ones throughout all of it. So we're going to go, in this video, we're going to go through and look at every single character in detail, and then you guys in the comments can go ahead and let me know which ones you think I should pick. And I do want to say that I reserve the right to make the final decision at the end because, hey, I'm the one that's going to be playing through it. But I definitely really want to hear from you guys. Put together a team, put together which ones you like and what you want to see, and maybe give me reasons why. But for now, let's go ahead and look at the characters in detail. Okay, so the first character we're going to look at is Elaine, the male human cavalier, and here's his card here. So his strength is a D10 and his melee is +2, which is pretty good. His dexterity is abysmal, is a D4, but he's probably going to be attacking with melee weapons. His constitution is a D8. His intelligence is a D6, and his wisdom is a D6, but he has the perception skill, which is a wisdom +1. And his charisma is D8, and his diplomacy is a charisma +3, which is really nice, so he's pretty good at getting allies. His hand size will be 4. We can ignore all the boxes because we're not going to be upgrading the characters that far. He's proficient with light armors, heavy armors, and weapons. And his special ability is you may discard a card to add 1 plus its adventure deck number to your check to defeat a non-villain monster. If undefeated, return it to the top of its location deck. Other characters may not play cards or you use powers on this check. Oh, so other characters may not. So you can sort of challenge a person. And so for this series, he basically will only be adding 1 to his checks by doing this. I mean, that's okay. Maybe you guys think that's better, but and then at the end of your turn you may recharge any number of weapons, and that's it. We're not going to read the rest of it. So that's actually, he's a pretty interesting character. Let's look at the other side. He's never going to have spells. He has 4 weapons, 3 armor, 2 items, 3 allies, 3 blessings, and oh, he starts with a cohort, Donovan. So Donovan, that's one of the new things in this set, is you can have cohorts. So he's going to start the game with Donahan here, who is an animal mount veteran. Its owner is Elaine, and this starts the game in your hand, and you can reveal this card to move at the end of your turn if you have a roll card. Alright, hold on a second. Review this card to move at the end of your turn. If you have a roll card, which we won't have, you may move another character to your location. So this lets you move at the end of your turn. Put this card on top of your deck to add 1d8 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to your combat check that has the melee trait. So he helps fight. When you reset your hand, you may shuffle this card into your deck. So you can sort of send them away for a little while. So that's actually pretty nice. So that's the first character, and actually a pretty cool one. Alright, so let's look at our next character here. Is going to be Kira. Make sure I got this right. I don't screw this up. Alright, and make sure the camera can see it. So we have Kira here. Now, Kira was in the very first Rise of the Rune Lords game, but she's definitely, I believe she's going to be different this time around. So her strength's a D6, her dexterity is a D4, constitution's a D6, intelligence is a D8, and she has knowledge, intelligence +2. Her wisdom's a D12, and her divine is +2. She has a charisma of D6 and diplomacy skill of charisma +2. Her hand size will be 5. She's proficient with light armors, heavy armors, and weapons. And her first power is, for your check to defeat a Bane that has the demon or undead trait, you may recharge a spell to use your divine skill plus 1d8 and add the attack, divine, and magic traits. And then the second power is, when you use the above power or play a blessing that does not have the corrupted trait on another character's check to defeat, a character at your location may shuffle one random card from his discard pile into his deck after the check. Oh, so that's like a little mini heal. So pretty cool. A little bit different than her last incarnation. And let's see, she can only hold one weapon in her deck, 5 spells, 1 armor, 1 item, 2 allies, 5 blessings, and she does not have a cohort. So that's that character. Now the next character, which is one that I really want to use, and I hope you guys pick him because he seems like it's going to be very interesting, is Balazar here. Let me make sure I can see him on the camera. And Balazar is a male gnome summoner. And so let's take a look at his card there. And he's actually very interesting. So his strength is a d6, which is his dexterity is a d6. His constitution is a d6. His intelligence is a d8, which is okay. And he has the knowledge skill of intelligence plus 2. His wisdom is a d6. And his best thing is his charisma, which is a d10. And his arcane skill is charisma plus 2. He has a hand size of 6, so he's a little bit flimsy. And here's what's funny. After you play a spell that has the attack trait, banish it. So if you use attack spells, they go away. He doesn't get to recharge them. You may discard a spell to draw a random monster from the box. So that goes into your hand. You draw a random monster from the box. When you defeat a monster and would banish it, you may add it to your hand instead. You may banish a monster from your hand to draw a card. Alright, so you can banish a card. What is it? You can banish a monster from your hand to draw a card. So you can acquire monsters and then discard them to draw cards from your deck. Now, why is that interesting? Is because, well, let's look at the other side. So he starts with no weapons. He never keeps a weapon in his deck. He has 5 spells, 1 armor, 2 items, 3 allies, 4 blessings, and the best thing, he starts with Padrig, which Padrig is very interesting. So Padrig is an outsider Eidolon arcane veteran. Now this is what it does. Display this card. While displayed, when you attempt a strength check and do not play a weapon, you may put a card on top of your deck to add your arcane skill plus the scenario's adventure deck number to that check. You may banish any number of monsters. For each monster banished, add 1d4 to the check or 1d6 if you have a roll card. If you are encountering a monster, add another 1d6 to each monster banished that shares a trait other than basic or elite with the monster you are encountering. So basically, you're going to be acquiring monster cards, and you can discard them to draw cards to make your combat better, or all kinds of things. But you got to have Padrig out in front of you. And cohorts can die, and if they die, they get banished permanently, so we want to be careful. But I think this is such an interesting character because the mechanics are so different from anything else that we've seen thus far. So I'm really leaning towards using this character, but that's up to you guys. So let's throw this aside. Let's see who else we have here. We have Anora. We'll go with another small character here. So Anora is the female halfling arcanist, and here's her card there. She has a d6 for strength, a d6 for dexterity, constitution's d4. Her intelligence is a d12, and she has a bunch of things. She has the arcane skill, which is intelligence plus 1. She has the craft skill, intelligence plus 1, and the knowledge intelligence of plus 3. She also has a wisdom of a d6 and charisma of a d8. Her hand size is 6, which is not great. When you attempt a check to acquire a spell, you may use your knowledge skill in place of any listed skill. So her knowledge is d12 plus 3, which is really good. So she's good at acquiring spells. After you play a spell, you may recharge a random spell from your discard pile. Wow. So he gets her spells back, even if she doesn't recharge them normally. Discard a spell to reduce cold or fire damage dealt to you to 0, so she can block. She can basically counter spell. So that's Very interesting character. This could be another one in the running because she does some interesting stuff. Let's look at the other side. She never has weapons in her deck. She does have 6 spells, no armor, 3 items, 2 allies, and 4 blessings. So that's Anora. Let's go ahead. We'll see another familiar character here. So we got Selah, who of course is going to be different from her last incarnation. Her strength is a D8 and her melee is a strength +3. Abysmal D4 for dexterity. Her constitution is a D8 and she has fortitude +1. Her knowledge, intelligence is a D4. Her wisdom is a D8 and she has a divine wisdom +1. And her charisma is a D10 and her diplomacy is +1. Hand size of 4. She's proficient with light armors, heavy armors, and weapons. When you attempt a check, hold on a second. When you attempt a check before you act, you may use your charisma skill instead of any listed skill. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are going to say before you act, do this check. So she can use her charisma skill instead of whatever skill the card says. You may discard the top card of your deck to add 1d6 to any check by a character at your location. So there you go. And then when you acquire a boon that has the corrupted trait, bury it. So she's not allowed to have stuff with corrupted. I don't know how often corrupted things are going to come up, but that's her. And let's look at her other side. She starts with 4 weapons, 1 spell, 3 armor, 1 item, 2 allies, and 4 blessings. Okay, let's take a look at another new character. And we have, I can't even pronounce that one, Irishka? Is that what it is? Can I make sure you guys see it? All right, and let's take a look at her card here. So she's a female half-orc inquisitor. And her strength is a D10, which is nice. She has a range skill, which is strength +1, which is kind of odd. Her dexterity is a D8, constitution D6, intelligence D4, wisdom's a D8, and she has the knowledge skill, which is wisdom +2, and the divine skill of wisdom +1. And her charisma is a D6. Hand size of 5. She's proficient with light armors and weapons. She will not gain the other thing. Her ability is you may recharge a card that has the divine or range trait to add 1d4 and the divine and magic trait to your check against a monster. So she can recharge divine or range traits to add a d4 against monsters. So that's okay. And then when you defeat a monster on your turn, you may roll a d6. On a on a 4, 5, or 6, you get to explore your location again. So she's actually really good for exploring through the locations. So that could be really useful for our team if we decide to go that way. Let's look at her other side. She starts with 5 weapons, 1 spell, 1 armor, 2 items, 1 ally, and 5 blessings. All right, we have coming up, we have another familiar character. We have Sione, the sort of sexy sorceress. She's very cool though. And let's see what she looks like this time. So her strength is D6, dexterity of D4, constitution of D6, intelligence D8, and her knowledge intelligence +2, wisdom is a D6, and her perception skills a +2, charisma is a D12, and that's her arcane skill, which is a charisma +2. Her hand size is 6. Before your combat check, you may discard a card to draw a card that has the arcane trait from your discard pile. Okay, so you can get stuff from your discard pile. So trade. You can trade a card in your hand for something in your discard, a spell. You may automatically succeed at your check to recharge a spell that has the attack trait. Oh, that's awesome. And when you acquire an ally, you may draw a card. Well, that's interesting. I don't think she had that before. Let's look at the other side. She never has weapons, but she does have 5 spells, 1 armor, 2 items, 3 allies, and 4 blessings. All right, let's take a look at another new character. And this one's another one that I personally like. And I really want to use this one, so I hope you guys vote for this one. Adowin is a female human hunter. Make sure that's on the camera, right? And you're gonna see why I like her. So let's take a look at her card. Her strength's only a D6. Her dexterity is a D12, and her range skill is D12 +1. She also has the stealth skill, which is a D12 +2, and her constitution is D12, intelligence D6. Her wisdom is a D8, And she has the wisdom divine, a divine wisdom skill, which is +1, and survival skill of +3, which is really good. Her charisma is only a D4, so she's not good at talking to people. She does have a hand size of 5, which is, I think, decent. I like having a hand size of 5. 4 is too small, 6 feels too much. She's proficient with light armors and weapons. And at the start of your turn, you may search your deck or your discard pile for a cohort. And put it into your hand, then recharge a card. So she can call her cohort. And then you may recharge a card to evade a summoned bane. So kind of like Mauricio in the first thing, she can evade summoned creatures, which could be useful. A lot of times, summoned stuff is just, they're just a precursor to something else. So that'll let you skip that. So that's really good. Let's look at our other side. So she has 3 weapons, 2 spells, 1 armor, 2 items, 3 allies, and 4 blessings. And the best thing about her is her cohort, Laren. Now, what I like about this character also is that she's kind of balanced, where she has a little bit of everything. Now, let's look at her cohort, Laren, which I love so much. It reminds me of Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. This is Laren, her wolf. It's an animal veteran. And you can display this card to examine the top card of your location deck. So she scouts ahead for you. If you have a roll card, you may examine the top 2 cards. Well, we're not going to do that. While displayed, shuffle this card into your deck to add 1d8 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to your combat check that has the range trait, which you'll most likely be doing. While displayed, recharge another card to put this card into your hand. So you can play this card to examine the card or your location. You can recharge another card to put it back into your hand and then play it again to search again. And while it's displayed, you can shuffle this back into your deck to get a D8 on your combat check as long as you're using range, which she probably will be doing. Now remember, she has the special ability that at the start of your turn, you may search your deck or discard pile for a cohort. So the cohort that you shuffled in, you can get back. I really like this character and I was using it in my personal campaign, so I'd like to use it again. If you guys like it, let me know and vote for it. But let's move on to another character. So we got another new character. It's going to be Crow. Let's look at Crow here. And he is a male human blood rager. He has a strength of a D12. Man, he's like a barbarian, I think. And a melee strength +1, dexterity of a D6, constitution's D6, and fortitude constitution +2. His intelligence is a D4, wisdom D6, and he has a survival skill of +3 and a charisma of D8. His hand size is 5, and he's proficient with light armors, heavy armors, and weapons. You may bury a card to add 1d10 and the electricity or force trait to your strength, melee, or arcane check. If the check has the attack trait, you may recharge the card instead. Oh boy. So you can charge up, like your attacks and stuff. When you defeat a monster, you may move or put the bottom card of your deck on top of your deck, then end your turn. So if you know what you recharge, that's what that's good for. Or you may move. So that's crazy. And then later on, we're going to ignore the last thing because we're not going to be able to do that. So, interesting character. It looks like he's pretty much a straight up attacker with some interesting skills. Let's look at the other side here. So, he has 5 weapons, 2 spells, 2 armor, 2 items. He has no allies, and he carries 4 blessings and no cohort. So, that's it for him. And one more familiar character, Arsk, the dwarf. Male dwarf ranger. We've seen him before. Let's see what he's got new this time. His strength is a D6, dexterity D8. His range skill is a dexterity +3, and his stealth skill is a dexterity +2. His constitution is a D10, intelligence D6, wisdom D8, and perception wisdom +1 or survival wisdom +2. And his charisma is a D4 because look at that sour face. He has a hand size of 5. He's proficient with light armor's weapons. And his abilities are: you may evade a bane you encounter that has the animal or vermin trait. Otherwise, add 1d4 to your checks against it. So you may evade a bane that has the animal or vermin trait. And if you don't evade it, you can add 1d4 to your checks against it. So that's pretty nice. When you would bury or discard a weapon that has a range trait for its power, you may recharge it instead. Now that's usually very good. You know, the discard effects are usually sucky, but that makes it really good. Okay, let's look at his other side. He carries 5 weapons, no spells, 2 armors, 2 items, 2 allies, and 4 blessings. And then we finally come to our last character, but certainly not the least. And we have Shara here. She's a female dwarf shaman. And let's look at Shara. So her strength's a d6, dexterity is a d4, which sucks. Constitution is a d10, and her fortitude constitution is a +2. Her intelligence is a d6. Her wisdom is a d10, and her divine skill is a wisdom +3, and she has a knowledge skill, which is wisdom +2, and her charisma is a d6. Hand size is 5. She's proficient with light armors and heavy armors. And her ability is, when a character at your location would fail a check to defeat a bane, you may recharge a spell to allow that character to re-roll the check. That character takes the new result. Wow, that's good. You may recharge a spell. Okay, so it's specific, it's a spell, but still, recharging something to get a re-roll is really nice. And when you succeed at a knowledge check, you may examine the top card of your location deck. So she's a studious character. Let's look at her other side. She never carries weapons. She does have 5 spells, 1 armor, 2 items, 2 allies, 5 blessings, and she has a cohort, which is Kolo. And I remember this guy. This guy was kind of interesting. So we have Kolo here. He's an animal spirit divine veteran, and you can review this card to add 3 to your knowledge check. So I guess he's smart. And recharge this card to add 1d8 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to a check by a character at your location to defeat a barrier or close a location. That's interesting. We often have trouble defeating barriers and locations, so this guy could be really useful. I mean, I really like, you know, right now off the bat, some of the ones that I'm liking. So we like Shara, because she has Kolo. I do like Adwin and Laren, you know, if I had to pick. And another good one, well, let's see, Imrishka was interesting because of her ability to explore. Anora was interesting as well. I really do like Balazar, though. Where did I do with Balazar? Because he has Pedrig. Where'd my Balazar card go? So, move these over here. So, Shara has Kolo, Adwin has Laren, and Balazar has Pedrig. I mean, this could be an interesting group here. We don't have like an upfront fighter, but Adwin should be able to fight. And Balazar, I think, is pretty competent fighting as long as he's got monster cards. But, you know, Rishka was very interesting because of her ability to you know, search locations. Oh, hold on, I'm running off the there we go, running off of the camera there. So we have a lot of characters. Anora there is good. Elaine was really good with his steed there. If I can find it, I threw it away. His steed. So lots of characters to play as. I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback from you guys. What should we do? Which character should we do? I do want to limit it to 3 characters because I think any more than that is going to be really unwieldy to play. It'll take me it already takes me about 3 hours just to film one of these videos, and I'm not even counting the hours of editing. So we'll go with 3 characters, but go ahead, go down in the description box and go ahead and, you know, just let me know what you think. Which characters should I use? If you're watching this video on somewhere other than you know, YouTube, you know, on Board Game Geek or anything like that, just in the comics, wherever, just find a way to get the information to me as to which characters you think I should use. So guys, thanks for watching this video, and we got a couple weeks before this is going to get played, so we have some time to think it over. You have basically about 2 weeks, so let's well, actually it might be more, almost like 3 weeks, but let's just say 2 weeks, and you know, I'll let you guys know when I decide. All right, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.